So to think about that for a minute, to start to think about yourself as being, it's easy to watch a good movie or go hear someone speak or go to a good meeting and say that you were inspired, but it's a little bit more difficult to say you were inspiring. But it's important that we understand that sometimes it's our job to share those good ideas that are within us, to allow for the fact that it's at least a possibility that something that we share could actually inspire someone else. And to think about this in a way of our successes, our training, whatever education we may have. There are all sorts of potentials in these things for us to share the good that we have with others. And of course we know that this is one of the things that actually makes those ideas stronger and more firmly set in our own minds is when we share them. So if you really want to learn something, teach it. And we know that this really does work. And we know that the other piece of that is that we actually teach what we need to learn. So we keep sharing those things. These inspirations that come to us when we share them become stronger in us. So yes, and on the one hand, we may be helpful to those around us by sharing, but for sure, we are being helpful to ourselves. And then, of course, it's important to remember that once we start being able to share with others, that there's a point where we shut up. That there's a point where we're not trying to force these ideas onto people, and we don't just need to talk forever about them. We share and then we're quiet and listen for what comes back, because then we're going to get another perspective. We're going to get a perspective that maybe will, at least what we could say is what Stephen Covey says is, even if we disagree with what comes back, we can say to them, well, you may be right. That's always a nice way to put it when you don't agree. So to go ahead and allow these ideas to come forth is almost a sculpting of the ideas, because it's interesting that when they're in our minds and they come out through our mouth, they seem to change a little bit and grow and evolve and and they also have power attached to them too, because the power of the spoken word there's more power there than we know. The power to set the tone, the power to set expectations, the power to actually begin that process of manifestation. And so I think it's important for us to consider and think about what it is that we say. Not just to be rambling on, and not just to every single comment that comes into our head we don't need to say. We can really be discreet in what comes out, but we do need to share those good things that are in us. And this lesson this morning is about readiness, and readiness is about 3 parts willingness and 1 part courage, and it's the point at which we are really prepared for a change. Being ready, being prepared for the next big thing, being prepared for the next good thing. And so it's about a conscious evolution, if you will. To think about the idea that actually what's going on in the world, in this world, in the physical world, we are all works in progress. So that silly bumper sticker that you see sometimes, "Be patient with me, God is not finished with me yet," it really does have a grain of truth in it, because God is always speaking or thinking our existence forward. So that's not over. What Meister Eckhart said about this was, God is still speaking. So, try to be quiet and listen. Try to be reverent. But the idea is that here in this world, if we think about the world as being this classroom or a place that is trying to teach us the lessons we need to learn to change the perceptions in our mind, because we live by perception. I mean, really, the fact of the matter is, the reality that we think we experience is actually just the way we're perceiving it. But for us in this experience that we're having here, there's really no other way. This really is our reality. And so to understand that the way I am observing the world, my perceptions of the world, which of course are based on past experiences and many times future fears, that's my reality. That's what I'm living in. Now, what I know today is that there's a higher reality to that. That there is the reality of spirit, which is over and above the reality of the world. And that reality is unchanging. That reality never changes. That is the reality of heaven, of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of oneness, of harmony. Well, I can think about that. I can sometimes, in rare moments, have a revelation that connects me to that experience, where all of the perceptions of this physical world will fall away. But the fact is, I'm living right now in this physical world, and I believe for a reason. And what the Course in Miracles tells us is the reason is to be helpful, I am here to be truly helpful. And what that does is when I start to change my mind and move towards a consciousness of service, it changes my perception, which is the general perception of this world, is a perception of lack, a perception of disconnect, a perception of isolation, the perception of threat. When I begin to live life here based on what's best for us together, thinking about being of service, thinking about the common welfare, and trying to move in that direction, I'm changing my perception. I'm consciously evolving in this world. I am deciding I'm going to begin to change my mind about the thoughts that are coming in. I'm going to begin to change my actions. And as I do this, my perception begins to move in the direction of spirit. So this conscious evolution is going to lead me from a place where in my mind I am a body, where I'm thinking that I am just a body existing in a physical world of a bunch of other bodies, and that all of us are vying for limited resources. And so that's why life is a struggle. And, my gratitude then is only based on whether I have a bunch of stuff as in comparison to those that I can look around and see don't have as much stuff. I'm going to change from that perception. I'm going to evolve from that perception to realize that we are really all connected. That I'm not, yes, right now I'm experiencing this life as a body, but I'm more than a body. I know that I am more than a body. And ultimately, I'm going to come to the place where I realize that it's actually the body that's the illusion, that's not who I am. And what the Course in Miracles says is that that's the point. When we come to that understanding, that's the point where we're just about to the foot of the bridge where God can actually come across and gather us back into spirit. But it's up to us to consciously evolve ourselves to get ourselves to that point of perception. And so how this evolution is working, we realize that everything that happens in the world is a symbol, or Plato would call it a shadow, of what exists in the ideal, or what exists in that the overarching reality of spirit. So in this way, I got to start looking at the world is that this is a symbol for something good, but I am perhaps in this moment I'm not seeing it as good. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing some threat, something to worry about in it. But I want to change my mind. I want to allow my practice, my spiritual practice, the spiritual reading that I do, to not just be intellectual exercise, but through me relaxing into it, allowing it to seep down into my subconscious mind, where these changes really need to take place. So to unfold and become that which we were designed to be. Now, there's a couple ways to think about this idea of that which we were designed to be. I mean, ultimately, we are designed to be part of creation at this level of spirit, where we are all, where we're all one being of light, where we all share one mind. But then there's the other level, and this is the level of the world that we're living in, is that temporarily, each of us have different talents and abilities and likes and dislikes and all those things, and they make up our, what we would maybe say, our personality, our ego that's operating in this world. And if we allow those assets, which by the way are just a shadow of the real asset, which is in spirit, if we allow those good things to grow in us, the portions of our personality that are based in fear begin to diminish. And those good parts of us grow more and more prominent, so that we can be of even greater service to the whole, which allows us to release more and more the idea of being separate, which is actually what keeps us anchored to this world. Now, you may think that's fine. I want to be anchored to the world. I don't want to just float off into space or something. And this is something that I think is very interesting, because as we allow those good pieces in us that we can identify, those good attributes in us to grow, become stronger, more prominent, and then we start giving them away, the world that we live in gets better. It changes. It changes, and our life experience here becomes richer. And things good, I mean, you can call it prosperity, you can call it abundance, begins to happen. And even though what I'm after here is to leave this world behind and return to spirit, I mean, ultimately that's what I want to do. The world still holds attractiveness for me. The world of form, the world of things, the world of getting more stuff, I need a couple more pair of shoes. More music, right? More of anything that you can think of. But what I know is that ultimately, those things do not complete me. I'm not going to feel bad about it when those things come to me, but what I need to realize is they're not that important. They're not that, and I will actually realize it. And so I think, and I said this before, but I think there's no reason for us to deny the pleasures of the world. But the important thing is to observe what happens when we participate in them. To just observe that the facts. You see, if we deny it, all we're doing is repressing things, and it's just going to turn around and come out in weirder ways some other time. So, but if we go ahead and experience these things that we think we want, and go after the things that we want to accumulate, and then but being observant all the time, observing how it makes us feel, what's going on, what will happen is we will get to the place in mind where we really realize it's not just talking about it, it's not just thinking about it. We know that these things aren't that important. They're fine. It's fine. There's no reason to be upset about it. It's fine, but it's really not that big of a deal. And so then we can get to the place where what we read in NA literature is to be happy with or without money. To be happy with or without you just fill in the blank, whatever it is. To be able to have that, see, because this is the evolution that we're looking for, is to come to the place where we accept the good things that come into our lives with gratitude, but flavored more with the gratitude of just for life itself. But we accept things as they come, and we're just as good letting them go when they leave, realizing that all these conditions that we're experiencing here in this life are just temporary. Where we get into problems is we are going after stuff, and then when we get them, we're grasping them. And we're like holding on to, can't lose it, don't want to lose, and the actual grasping and holding on so tight, they get slippery. So to come to this understanding that we are actually related to all creation, what I want to be in right relation to the universe, meaning that I know what my part is, that I am equal to all of the other sons and daughters, all of the other brothers and sisters, that I'm equal, and that I have a place of equality, and that my own equality also, of course, and this has to be, and I don't know why it's so weird, but sometimes we just can't get it, that if I am seeing myself as being equal, that means I have to see that everybody else is equal too. So, and the only difference is that temporarily I have certain components that somebody else doesn't, but that is just temporary. That could be assets, it could be some kind of physical trophies, whatever. But that all of that's just temporary. It could be an education. It could be, it could be that a talent to do a certain thing. But that I am in right relation means that I accept what I have and I give what I have. But I realize that everybody else has their own temporary things that they are going to contribute, and that we all are equal in that way. And then to start thinking about the fact that God is continuing to extend, meaning that God is always creating, and that we are co-creators with God, and so we are always creating. And when we think about it in these terms of the physical world, we can think about God as being infinitely large and infinitesimally small, like in everything, in other words, through the whole range. And of course, then we find out that in that ultimate reality, all that size and all the time and space actually don't mean anything at all in God, that God is beyond time and space and beyond all of those things, and that so are we. And that's fine to think about that and to realize that that's actually the truth, but that's not our experience here right now. So that's kind of like a high-minded idea that's actually of little value and little use in the work that we have to do here. Although I want to hold on to it as a vision of what that ultimate reality is, there's something I'm supposed to be doing here. There's something that we're all supposed to be doing here. So that's what I need to be focused on, is each moment as things happen, to realize that our lives, our beliefs, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions may seem very small compared to the vastness of the universe, but they are no less wonderful. They are no less a part of the beauty of creation. That right relation with the universe is a sense of belonging. And this great understanding that can come to us, is that how many times have you gone somewhere and come into contact with a group of people and then felt uncomfortable, felt out of place, felt like you didn't belong there. When we come to this understanding that really that everything is equal and that we are in right relation to the universe, we begin to feel like we're at home no matter where we are. That sense of uncomfortability, if that's even a word, falls away from us. And once we get that sense that we are at home wherever we are, that we belong, then we can actually do what we're supposed to do in that situation, which is to be helpful. Now, I also have to say something else. What we're supposed to do in that situation may actually be to leave. But not because we don't feel like we belong. But perhaps because where we're at right then, it is not, there's no ability to really be helpful in that situation at that moment, for whatever reason. And the Course talks about this in a way that says, people come and go in our lives. We don't have to hold on to everybody that comes into our life. They come and go. We get an opportunity, we touch, we meet. We get an opportunity to be helpful, and then we let them go. It's that same idea as we don't have to cling. We don't have to hold on. Some people will come into our lives and they stay in our lives for long periods of time. Other people come and then they leave. And they leave in a number of ways. Sometimes they leave, they move out of town. Sometimes their body dies. We remember the ultimate reality is that they can never be lost to us, no matter what, because we're all connected. They may have some physical distance from us. Their body may have been laid down. But in reality, they're all still connected to us. But we let them go if they go. We let them go. We let it, and we go on and we do the next thing that's supposed to be done. And to see everything, this black elk thing about being sacred, the chief black elk says, we regard all created beings as sacred and important, for everything has wachangai, or influence, spirit is really what he's saying, which can be given to us, through which we may gain a little more understanding if we are attentive. So he's saying that every living thing that comes into our experience, from the plants to the animals to the other people, have something to give us if we pay attention.